want to change and commissioners, whenever you are ready.
Okay, so, real quick, I'm not gonna be able to open up there's,
Close, completely close, like right click, close program. Oops. And then reopen, and then.
where am I? Over bottom.
Lower southwest. So southeast, sorry,
Southeast,
southeast.
okay.
So that's like a soft close, now right click.
Why not right click?
May
You may.
It's cold and flu season, this is pretty dangerous. I just need to refresh. I like how Tim automatically assumed I broke it.
I knew that one wasn't me, and I assumed you could fix it.
There it
is.
Good, work session. Files. Two PM. Wait.
That bad, I'd be like, no.
Please have it.
There it is, water resources, history, overview, all the good stuff. Great. I do love this topic. We are top of the food chain with water for the incredibly large drainage. Okay, I don't need to do anything official. Robert's not gonna get mad at me.
Just
We're
open it.
opening, alright. January 24th, 2:45 PM. Let's open this work session of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners.
I can drive if you want.
Yeah, if you want to. All right, thank you, board. Bryce Ehrlich, Water Resource Program Manager. Excited to present this to you. I'll start sitting, but I might end up standing. So just a brief overview. This is actually the modern era of Lake County Water Resource Management. Kind of began in the late 1990s. There were two large ranches with really significant water rights. We know them as the Hollenbeck Ranch and Hayden Ranches. They came on the market at the same time. And there were several years of back and forth between Lake County and other partners, including BLM and the city of Aurora. But basically through that process, by the early 2000s, Lake County kind of had some access to water rights, and we applied in water court to adjudicate those water rights so that we could use them for the beneficial use in the county in ways that weren't just the original irrigation of a ranch field that the water was originally appropriated for in the late 1800s. It took us nearly 20 years to get through the water court, so long so that they've actually changed the law to prevent it taking that long to go through water court now. But in early 2017, Lake County received its water court decree, 98 CW 173, which is just ingrained in my mind because that number is very important. That is a 68-page document that outlines exactly how our water rights, it defines them and how they can be administered and what uses they can be put towards. In the intervening period though, there was a lot of work. This was handled by commissioners, filling some big shoes because Commissioner Mudge has been handling water resources for 7 years of her term, and in the last year of her term, I came online as a full-time employee. Before her, it was Commissioner Bordonia that kind of was in charge of the water rights in the county. But Commissioner Mudge did a really good job of networking and establishing relationships with regional partners and the state organizations to kind of create a rough outline of how the county would use its water. And then starting with the formation of my department or my role in May of last year, we really started working on the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of how we would actually be able to administer this small limited portfolio we have throughout the county, for the beneficial use of the county, for the economic, social, and environmental development of the county. So that final document that covers the nuts and bolts is called the Water Marketing Policy, but you can essentially think of it as the bylaws of how the water enterprise is supposed to be working, especially for permanent water augmentation contracts. I wanna be really clear that the water is allocated, we can lease water in temporary ways. We lease water to the Mount Massive Golf Course because we need to change that year by year. Contracts are permanent in perpetuity use. You actually pay to kind of become part of our plan. And by paying to become part of our plan, we essentially administer the water for you. And you pay kind of operations and maintenance fees. That permanent use can never go away. And so our permanent contractability is limited by our dry year yield, right? And in Colorado, what yield you got in year 2002 and 2012 basically dictates your maximum amount of dry year yield. Those were the driest years we have. Everything other than that, we can have average yields where we can kind of rely on that water to come, but we can't guarantee it like we can a dry year yield. So if we're gonna give out permanent use, we gotta make sure it's our most secure water only that we're using. Lake County Water Resources began this calendar year as a standalone department though. So last year the budgeting was interesting because it was kind of a mid-year change, much smoother, much more simple this year to both receive revenues and to bill the expenses we have. So we have our water projects enterprise and the newly established, I should mention that this got kind of made in 2017, but we actually fleshed it out this last year. Beginning this year, we're gonna be able to accept applications, that's the goal. So by building season 2025, we wanna be able to accept applications to administer new wells in the county. The Board of County Commissioners, the prior board and I had a lot of discussions on what services would be allowed and what services we could even entertain under this permanent contract framework. And we just had to go with the most efficient, kind of lowest use that would give us the biggest bang for our buck economic wise, which is housing development, right? We're in a housing crisis. We've had a barrier to development in certain areas because of the lack of availability of water. And that's what this new tool allows us to change is our discussions on development in these certain areas. And it also allows us to kind of increase access to housing in certain areas. So the most efficient uses, we have domestic in-house use wells only for both primary residences and auxiliary dwelling units. Commercial and industrial uses is kind of nebulous because we can't define those, and each one of those is gonna be case by case, and we're gonna receive those. And that's, like I was mentioning earlier, that's where the board of the enterprise, you guys will have to make a discretionary decision on the commercial and industrial because they're all gonna be unique, they're all gonna be vetted, they're all gonna have their own individual engineering report. And then we've also had a lot of desire for livestock wells, horse properties, things like that. The amount of water that houses use and livestock uses is actually defined in our decree. And livestock use is the very insignificant amount of water. I think it's 11 gallons per head per day. If you added up even 2 horses throughout a whole year, it's a fraction of an augmentation unit. But you'd still have to apply and, we're only selling in minimum 1 augmentation units. You can't get a fractional unit. So it'd essentially be like, we know we're selling you more water than you need, and we can start kind of building that in as a buffer for the enterprise, and eventually we'll know we have a reliable extra amount of units available because currently available units aren't being fully utilized. If that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
So we also are the staff that's in charge of negotiating and managing water leases, most importantly, Mount Massive Golf Course. They're actually written into our decree. There are several pages of our decree dedicated to Mount Massive Golf Course and how we can move our water up to that site to irrigate that. It's county-owned property, and it's been identified as an important county asset for many decades, so it's built into our water plan.
Just to help me visualize, how are we moving up to Mount Massive Golf Course? Isn't it kind of below everything else?
It's an engineering, it's a paper exchange.
Okay,
right? So we're basically saying, and we know this water will return to the main stem of the Arkansas from where it's naturally coming in.
right,
If we move it further up the drainage, we know that same water will meet that point in the main stem of the Arkansas. We're
okay,
just filing with the state to make sure they know that we're transferring the water diversion point further upstream.
okay,
And that's written in our decree. We have transfer points, we have diversion points.
Mhm.
And so all those, like the Mount Massive Golf Course diversion point and transfer process is several pages. That defines the limit, the source, and the max limitations basically.
okay. A golfer I am not, but they're covered, they have enough water, and I'm not gonna be
Yes,
asking for more.
and we're gonna have a little bit of, I'm currently negotiating their lease for 2025. Talking with legal, we're gonna present to the board, you guys will have a chance to weigh in on that and make sure that it's what you want before we present it to them. But basically, the long and short of it is that until the enterprise and the water marketing policy was up and running and we were able to do these permanent contracts, we have this amount of water that we can't store. And water is a use it or lose it type of enterprise, right? So it made sense to just give all the water to transfer up to the golf course so that it was put to some beneficial use. And we never had to worry about it being changed, abandoned, up for debate in any way. Now that we have the enterprise and we have much more capabilities to use this water for, we have to be a lot smarter about how we allocate each individual piece of it, individual piece of water,
Yeah,
but each little bit of water. And so we're not gonna rip the Band-Aid off on Mount Massive Golf Course. What we're trying to do is slowly phase them into the new enterprise so that they're contributing to it, but also so that they're paying essentially what is a market rate in this county. A market rate for leased water in this county, not contract water, not permit water, but leased water, is set by the city of Pueblo. City of Pueblo did a really good job in the 40s and 50s of advanced planning on water acquisitions. They own several ranches in the headwaters, including in Lake County. Basically, the city of Pueblo has twice as much water as they need to serve their municipal needs now. And so everyone in the basin that's using water on a leased basis is pretty much using Pueblo water. So that's Titan Gold down in Box Creek, Mount Massive Gold behind them. Angel View's development uses leased water from Pueblo. And so that kind of sets the market floor of the price we should be aiming for, right? Because we want to be in line with the market, both in our contract price, which is set on Twin Lake shares, more or less, and our lease price as well. Otherwise, we're kind of leaving money on the table. And the enterprise, right, there's a special body of Colorado law designed to enable water activities enterprises, which basically means I'm a de-Bruced entity. I can collect more revenue than I give out, and I can, start saving for capital projects,
Yeah.
because all these water infrastructure projects are super capital intensive.
yeah.
Okay, to help me understand this picture a little better, Pueblo doesn't own our water, but they are guaranteed a certain amount downstream from us, is that sort of?
Yes, and that's a really they, by foregoing, yes, because we're in the headwaters, basically they can transfer their rights up to us rather easily, because they know that all that water will again flow down to the original diversion point.
Okay,
And so the state, and I'll get into that a little later, but the state is in charge of all that administration, and it all has to be approved by the state.
okay, and this is a separate subject, this water supply, we're not talking about contaminants or anything
Correct,
here.
yeah.
This is purely supply.
And I mean, that's a good point, and I know we mentioned it, but like, in the state of Colorado, water supply, raw water we call it, and water quality are two separate kind of entities, different considerations, different regulatory regimes around them.
Okay.
The EPA ability to enforce the Clean Water Act was gutted last year. So there was a void in that law to protect for water quality. And so the state of Colorado actually passed legislation to backfill that void. So the state of Colorado is now in charge of all those water quality concerns. And they actually went above, and there's more protections now than the EPA had in its
So
place.
it's a good thing, like
It's a
you were
good
saying
thing.
last night.
The funding and the capability of the state, because that was the big debate, is if you're gonna stand this up, do you have the right capacity to make it effective?
Yeah,
And that's an ongoing debate, but the state rules are very clear that we have the Water Quality Control Division, which is under, I believe it's Environmental Health, and this is water supply. And obviously, way overlapping, water supply people have huge water quality concerns. you know, our partners in water supply from Colorado Springs and Aurora and Pueblo help us on wildfire mitigation projects, just anything that's gonna affect their water quality in Twin Lakes and Turquoise, right? Because their water comes from us, through us. The other thing I'm just a point of person that also maintains and supervises critical water infrastructure such as head gates, measuring devices, and other physical infrastructure, and that's in tandem with Michael Irwin, Public Works, right there, actually kind of the keepers of our infrastructure, but this is my focus. I wanna make sure our few pieces of water infrastructure are functional. We have a couple grants, we're sorry. No, good. So yeah, overview of my position. So it's kind of meant to be a point of contact for water resources issues in Lake County, a connecting point, right? Utilizing my network ability, I can't address your concern. I'm the steward of Lake County's limited water portfolio, but I have the connections to direct you to the right people, either at the state or with water quality or the water providers themselves. Administering Lake County's water rights portfolio, again, the water projects enterprise for contracts, Mount Massive Golf Course, and the water infrastructure. Our infrastructures, at this point, we own a couple ditch rights. We have one water gauge up on the base of Mount Elbert that takes water right out of the stream of Mount Elbert, measures it, puts it right back into the stream. And that's one of our water rights that used to be used for irrigation, that we now transfer up to the golf course for their irrigation. And this is the magic numbers, right? 98 CW 173. So our water projects enterprise can only serve the area designated in our court decree that this water can be served, and it's all based on hydrology and analysis of existing water decrees that are out there that we would be in conflict with. And so there's a map on the next page we'll look at. The other thing is, this is a new tool that is primarily useful in rural areas of the county, and so there's a big concern amongst various departments, but especially community planning and development, that this would kind of allow for unchecked growth, right? In areas that maybe don't wanna see density, we don't wanna see extensive development. And so there's actually a phased implementation. We have a certain amount of water that's allocated to contracts, and that amount of water will be made available over the course of 3 to 4 years. That way, there's plenty of time for us, our teams, you guys all, if there's an unintended consequences coming out of this, we have time to catch it before it gets out of control. We'll have time to rein it in, to limit, further limit it, or if we have more water that comes along, we'll have the ability to change how fast we have that water available or the amount that's available.
Question. So when it comes to actually contracting water or even leasing water, I understand the CUP process for gaining access to land use, but what is the process for gaining access to water use?
By following the application process listed in the water marketing policy.
Okay, and so we don't serve in a quasi judicial way to approve those contracts? Or it's just like
Yes, the board will serve, it will approve. Those applications come to me, and then once a quarter, we will present them to you for approval or denial.
But not in a quasi judicial way, Chris?
No, it's a general contract.
Okay. So there's no public hearing notices or anything with that? It's just weird that.
So there is a public notice process
Okay.
that's part of,
Okay,
and that's built into our decree. The
Great.
process for public notification is built in, we have to do certain things.
okay.
And for certain periods of time, we have to contact certain entities. All this, we approve it internally, but the state is still the ultimate arbiter. It goes to the division engineer for initial approval,
Yeah.
and the final approval will come from the state engineer.
Okay,
And at that point, I will then grant them the ability, we can hold that final well permit until they go and get a CO for their house. So we know they're not using our water until they're actually legally allowed to.
okay.
We're not gonna serve areas that have existing water suppliers, the biggest one being Parkville Water District. This is a question I get all the time. The Parkville Water District covers the municipal use of Leadville and surrounding areas. So Parkville has incredible water rights going back to before appropriation started in 1871. They have 1860 water rights that are the most flexible, amazing water rights. It's a one page that says you can use this for industrial and municipal purposes, period. They're done. And they own entire fractions of the river. Every bit of their water goes through a treatment plant though, right, and then do a municipal systems, so they have different water quality control systems and standards and tests and everything they need to do. We're raw water, we're augmenting water that people are pulling straight out of the earth. They're taking it away from the river system, we're replacing it back into the river system for them, right? The whole thing about ours is we have to make the river whole, and return the water we're taking out of priority. Mount Albert Water Association serves the Panarch district, and that's kind of written into how Panarch was founded, and so we're not gonna overlap with them either. The outcomes, we want economic development, obviously, we can lower barriers to housing for, normal people, so to speak. And we can grant the ability for ADUs in rural areas of the county where they might have a well permit now because they're exempt, right? The parcels existed since before the water laws made everything complicated in the late 60s. But they don't have the ability to do an ADU without augmenting it through a different source. This is the area. This is a pretty limited area compared to what was originally proposed in the decrees, and it took 10 years to narrow it down to this. A2 and A1, no practical difference between them, just an administrative thing, but this is the area we can serve, right? It's hydrologically connected to the main stem of the Arkansas or its tributaries. But you can see here, this is all covered by Parkville. Most of this is public land. Here's the golf course. We have some private lands in here. Really, what this is going to allow is development of the E, Hill, and Lost Canyon area, right? We have existing subdivisions, not made correctly according to subdivision regulations, but they're there, they're legal, the court says so. That's where a lot of the growth concerns come from too, right? These subdivisions were never properly laid out. But this is also some of the last private developable land left in Lake County, right? We're running out of land otherwhere. I mean, we have 80% public land, and I think my calculations show that less than 4% of the total land area of Lake County is left for greenfield development. That's right, like, what you guys decide what the built environment looks like in this county in 10 years is kind of what we're stuck with.
Bryce, what about north of that? Who
Here?
manages all that? Yeah,
This is all Pueblo land. Pueblo owns the Escondido Flats.
okay.
And so they have a lot of good say here. There is talk and there is potential future ability to partner with Pueblo to open this area up to augmentation using Pueblo water rights, or if we acquire something else. You know, back in 2004, 2005, they were talking about putting condos out at Ski Cooper,
Yeah,
right? And that was utilizing Pueblo water and Pueblo partnership to augment that area.
so they have to seek approval to drill a well from Pueblo?
They
And
would-
our house?
Currently, they would have to go through their entirely own augmentation process.
Uh-huh,
We don't have the ability to serve them unless things change,
yeah,
and that would make us go back to court several years,
Okay.
and so it's there, it's a potential.
Mhm.
We can talk about the future of this ranch a little bit at my work session, I mean, I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah,
But,
Where the dog sledding is?
yes, exactly. But yeah, so like there's also the ability to add this on, we have Bird's Eye Gulch Ditch and Reservoir, we have the ability to build a reservoir on BLM land at Bird's Eye Gulch. And the beautiful thing about this is that this is the east fork of the Arkansas, this would essentially act as a water tower, right? It's above every other piece of development, and so it'd be easy to send the water down to where we needed it.
There is a historical facility at the bottom of Bird's Eye. Have you been up, were you up there this summer?
You know, there's a lot going on up there, actually. There's a really important water right that's owned privately now by the ranch that's there, the Arkansas Headwaters Ranch, that can't really be put into beneficial use by them, that Parkville's interested in, because Parkville could put it into beneficial use. So this is definitely an area that's on a lot of folks' radar. For us, the reason we've not pursued the Bird's Eye Gulch Reservoir is because we would have to go through the BLM permitting process and build on public land. And that would be, twice as much regulations and paperwork. If we found a piece of land that the county owned that was suitable, it could be a lot better. But yeah, I just wanna point out really quick, Turquoise Reservoir, we have a diversion point, Dairy Ditch number 3, point of diversion. This is where we take our Dairy Ditch number 3 water that originally poured over into what's now the gold mining area, Titan Gold. We went to court We got the ability to use that throughout this entire area, and we got the ability to exchange it up to the golf course. Our whole plan is based on, and Aurora's partnership is all based on this future theoretical Box Creek Reservoir, right? Huge reservoir. The county in 2001 signed an option agreement saying, we don't oppose it, we are your partners in this project. That allowed Aurora to then financially support us to get us through the court process and perfect our water rights. Box Creek Reservoir, last I heard, is 30 years out, if ever going to happen. But that's why Aurora's interested in this area. It's at the headwaters, it makes sense. And the other reason is that's why we are inextricably involved with Aurora in our water infrastructure and our water plan, which we'll go over in a minute. So you guys sit as the board of the enterprise. We'll have quarterly meetings where you'll have the chance to approve and deny contracts, but you'll also get the chance to get an update from me on local, statewide, and regional and national issues. One big thing that's going on right now is the Colorado River Compact expired in 2022. The federal government gave us till 2028 to come up with a new compact, and we're not there yet, but it's a fascinating discussion that's going on. I know it's across the hill, but 200,000 acre feet of water come under those mountains through Lake County every year to then go to the east side of the divide, right? So a ton of Colorado River water actually comes through our county, even though we're not naturally hydrologically connected.
Where's that tunnel?
There's 24 diversions that go over the mountains and 12 of them are in Lake County. So there's several tunnels. There's the Ewing Ditch up by Skeet Cooper. That was the first ever trans-mountain diversion actually. That's owned by Pueblo. Columbine Ditch is trans-basin. And then yeah, all of Turquoise and Twin are fed by tunnels that come from the other side of the divide. And that's when the water education session comes up, I want you guys to go on that tour because you'll actually tour the basin and the big infrastructure from the headwaters down all the way to Pueblo to see how the dams interconnect and the river system is managed. We're gonna have town halls this, Q1 or Q2. Once the behind the scenes nuts and bolts have actually finally been finalized, we have state approval to do this, right? We're done on our side. Now it's up to the state to approve our plan. As soon as that's done, and I know I'm ready to actually present the final plan, I wanna have town halls in the north part of the county and the Twin Lakes area to explain this new tool, this new capability we have, and also to, solicit interest in what other folks in the community wanna see out of water development in our county, right? We have very limited water. I eventually want to have more, right? Any person in my position is trying to acquire more water, which would allow us to address more concerns. Right now, we're kind of focused on bang for your buck. We have, less water than my family has to irrigate a 200-acre field to cover everything. But that could change, and we could have a lot, and we could be able to entertain irrigation contracts on historic ranches or, environmental purposes like the barn pond in Twin Lakes. We just don't have that amount of water yet to entertain those purposes.
Potential source of future revenue for the county?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The current water is revenue, but yeah, current projects, water development plan, we got that grant funded. This is a ditch we own that feeds the golf course that's fallen into disrepair, so we're looking into fixing that because we might have a potential reservoir site on golf course land that's not used by the golf course, which is owned by the county. It's next to the river, it makes a lot of sense. Location wise, maybe not geologically, we don't know that yet. And then, like I said, Aurora is our biggest partner. We have a pending new intergovernmental agreement with them that's just going to further clarify some terms that allow us to be secure in the enterprise process and just make sure that we're playing nice with our biggest partner. This is my budget. These revenue projections are just kind of based on a set percentage, but I'll explain a little bit more about how that's gonna work. So my charges for services, this is the first year I have the ability to actually quote unquote sell rights to our water, right? So that's the majority of this, is just selling those augmentation units and inclusion fees. Application fees are put into this too. This miscellaneous is a pass-through fee. This is basically because I'm going to sell the water meters. They're smart meters, they are read by cell phones, it's really cool. I don't have to do anything out in the field to see them, and the data gets downloaded daily. But just to make sure everyone's on the same exact well and the same exact well meter, you're gonna purchase them through me, so this is just a pass-through. What I wanna say is we have that allocation of water for the enterprise, of which we only have this much for year one, this much for year two, this much for year three. These numbers are actually pretty conservative. This is just, if I have 34 units available next year, this is assuming I'm selling 15 of them. Demand could be that we sell all 34, and that would make my budget look much better. But the purpose of this is to be a revenue neutral, revenue positive enterprise, right? It's essentially supposed to act like a business and to pay its own way and to then accumulate some capital.
This looks like it's self-sustaining, yeah.
Exactly, and that's the goal. That's the promise of this.
Bryce, wouldn't you have sold that year over, like, it's like an annual charge, an annual fee, or is it a
There's a
one-time?
one-time inclusion
One
fee,
time, okay,
and then there's an annual operations and maintenance fee. So
okay,
that one-time inclusion fee is essentially meant to be tied to the price of a Twin Lakes share. Because if you didn't come from us, that would be your option, is going out and acquiring a Twin Lakes share on the open market, going to court, adjudicating it for yourself, which a lot of people do, and especially in Chaffey County. But the benefit to us, you pay the Twin Lakes share price, we take care of the court card
yeah,
for you. It's still a huge savings and benefit to you, time-wise and money-wise.
Bryce, what is roughly a fee if someone has a well, they wanna build an ADU, they need that extra unit? What's that fee?
$9,000 per unit.
And that's one-time fee?
That's the one-time fee, and then the operations maintenance fee, right now we have it tied to, I think it's $700 a year. Basically, it's trying to replicate Parkville's fees, right? If you have one house on Parkville, you get charged a certain amount minimum per month. We're trying to be competitive with that. And the reason is we're not trying to incentivize coming onto our plan versus hooking up to Parkville. We wanna be competitive with everyone else so that we're.
But if you don't have a choice, if you're out in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
you're still paying that $700 a year, so that's expensive for someone who wants to build an ADU.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same price as, you have to pay into the plan, you're getting the benefit of the plan, so there are cost savings. But yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive to get water in areas that
Yeah.
you don't know how to supply.
what happens after, so, Tim, can you go back one? You said that we've got this 4-year lead out time, and this would clearly, I don't remember, but it looks like it's pretty one-to-one revenue to expense. What happens after the 4-year? Like, we don't have more water to sell, so how does this
Then we're
enterprise
Yep.
continue to support itself?
Then we're relying on our operations and maintenance fees,
Uh-huh,
right, and our lease income.
and will it cover that? Cause it's not,
It may not. And this is the thing is
Okay.
that that's why I
it's not
don't,
in licenses and permits, which is,
this is what's, like, I think finance just took we're gonna charge this times inflation and build it out.
yeah,
But my numbers that I did internally are a little bit different than this because it's assuming the expansion of the enterprise allotment that's available.
okay,
Right, and so, but yeah, that's a huge concern we have, is that we have limited water,
yeah,
and yeah, we're phasing it in over 4 years.
Yeah.
But then if we don't have any more water, it's a use it or, it's a first come, first serve, and once we're done, because
Yeah.
we don't have the ability to serve anymore.
okay,
I'm working on certain things to expand the amount of water we have, right? We have a portfolio, but we have a lot of obligations. We have to pay for evaporative loss on Hayden Pond. We have to, what else? The Mount Mousef Golf Course has to be accounted for and everything. So, yeah, we have this limited portfolio, of which this is available for enterprise, of which this is available this year.
okay,
I'm working on growing the share of the pie that's available to the enterprise. And we can go into that, but it's basically partnering with Parkville is how we can do it.
okay,
Parkville has the ability to irrigate part of the golf course. If we do that, then we free up 25% more water for us to use for other things.
nice, alright, thank you.
Are we mirroring, procedures and methods that other headwaters, counties are kind of doing simultaneously, or is this like a first of its kind situation?
This is not, that's a great question. We are modeling our enterprise, so it's rare that the county owns the water rights. Typically, they're what's called conservancy districts. You go down to Chaffey County, they're part of the Upper Ark Water Conservancy District. Go further down from them, there's the Lower Ark Valley Water Conservancy District. They're essentially like Parkville, they're taxing entities, self-sustaining entities that only deal in water adjudication. We just, through quirks of history, it's part of our county, and so we're not getting rid of it. This is the system to secure ourselves, to secure our future. we want control over it, and we just don't have a conservancy district. In the past, it's been talked about joining those, but it doesn't make a lot of sense because we lose that local control.
Yeah,
You know,
again,
then we have
this
people in
is,
Salida dictating how our water is used throughout the valley.
Respect.
So yeah, this is just based on kind of like if you go through CPI increases, but I think
Okay.
I have more favorable revenue projections than this
Mhm.
if the economy cooperates.
Okay.
Expenses, that looks huge, I'm sorry, I don't make that much money, but I guess that's my line item. Professional services is a huge,
full benefits.
Yeah,
That's
we
right.
know,
That's
we know.
including my
Loaded.
generous benefit package, which is amazing. Professional services, my revenue numbers are a little different than this. I rely on, I'm not a one-man show, right? Water rights in Colorado are super specialized, super unique to the state. And so I have a contracted engineer and a contracted water lawyer that I work with and rely on heavily.
We've talked
Yeah.
about that a bit.
The water lawyer is under Chris's budget, but the engineering is under my budget. And so this is the year one engineering, but I expect the engineering budget to actually go down after this because this is year one. This is the year we're standing it up and learning how to run this thing. We're still in the process of getting state approvals right now. So it's front loaded and I have a projection of it dropping off about 20% over the next 2 years. And that's based on my engineer's feedback to me as well.
Yeah, and what I would say is we had discussed during my presentation too, that we are looking at situations like this to where the legal services part might actually be transferring into the budgets for the departments and the operations that are using those. So
Yeah.
I would manage the services, but they would actually be tied to the actual budget using them.
I think that might be a good idea as we're going forward and developing this further, and especially if we acquire more water rights and have to go back to water court. It would be nice to have a good accounting of what we're actually spending on
Yes.
water.
There's no way water court's not in our future, I imagine, because this is, in the American West, water's just an incredibly contentious issue.
Unless we don't wanna go back unless we have to. But we're gonna have to if we acquire more water that's not used for exactly what we want. And it's typically 3 years and $250,000 for
Yeah.
that process.
And it depends on the compact, right? Like what comes out of that.
So,
That'll kind of help rewrite some of it. Not rewrite, excuse me, but like reestablish who has what. Who has what jurisdiction.
Yeah,
Another way to say it.
anytime you go to water court, you're opening up your case to all opposers.
Right.
And every single one of these users has their eye on Lake County, so every one of our court cases, everyone will file an opposition.
Mhm.
We actually look for opposers that are so-called friendly opposers, right? And so that's one of the things, we know Aurora's gonna oppose, we want them to be a friendly opposer.
Yeah.
Training, this is a budget item I just wanna mention because networking, connections in this industry is super important. Just having a presence, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, that's what Lake County's moving away from. And so I go to several conferences, I want you all to attend the Arkansas River Basin Water Forum if you can. There's also the roundtables, there's the C9 Summit every year, which is the meeting of all 9 roundtables to talk about roundtable structure. It's just really good to go there and, rub elbows with all your counterparts. The reason I like the Arkansas River Basin Forum though, is it's everyone. It's county commissioners, it's the general managers of the water conservancy districts, it's the rank and file on the ground, water commissioners, measuring devices people, so it's all of them.
Cool.
that's March,
March 5th and 6th.
okay,
So I know, you're gonna have a lot. If you can, it'd be cool, it's
it's on the radar.
next. The goal is within 1 year, we wanna start contracting. We're gonna continue to cultivate those relationships and begin work on long-term projects. Mainly, how do we address this issue of we need more water and we need storage for it. We need to learn more about what the administration of the enterprise will actually entail. This is our first year doing this, we're gonna have to get our feet under us and that's gonna take some time. And then we also need to know what demand to anticipate, right? All our demand calculations are speculative right now, or based on very vocal members of the community to express demand. But once we actually open it up, we could be surprised at how many folks want access to our water. And then I'm working on a grant project in state reporting. It is not complete in 2024, so the water development plan is done for my engineers. The DeLap ditch rehabilitation study is not done. Long-term goals, Hayden Rec Pond is our only resource we have to store water. And in water world, storage is all important because you need the ability to release it when you're using it, not when the water is melting down from the mountains. So big discussion is statewide. We wanna help Parkville develop their Empire Gulch water right, which is what I mentioned, that allows them to transfer water up to the golf course to irrigate roughly 50% of the golf course, which would open up 50% of the water we use at the golf course for us. We don't need to do that right now because we don't have the ability to store it, but once we can store it, it's all tied together. But it's all gonna be possible with this Empire Gulch water right being developed. Gotta look at the Delap Ditch, Cavalli Reservoir, this is what I mentioned, like, I think that's the Cavalli Ranch, but it's, tentatively, we're looking at that corner on 5A and 5 at the golf course. There's about a 7-acre site there that looks like it could be a good site for a reservoir, just because of its access to, our main water user, the golf course, but also it's right next to the river. So when you release water out of a reservoir and it goes back to the river, you pay for the groundwater loss, right? So transit losses are a very real concern. So the closer we can make it to the river, the better. And then we're trying to expand the enterprise allotment, right? We're trying to expand the amount we have available of our current portfolio by smarter water allocation. We're also trying to acquire more water rights. Water rights in Colorado are super complicated, right? They have their own legal framework, they have their own court system. There are 9 courts throughout the state that adjudicate each basin. And so you have experts, and that's the benefit of the system is experts. But basically Colorado owns the water. The state of Colorado owns the water through its 10th Amendment right in the Constitution. Our Constitution, the state actually explicitly said they own the water. The water rights are private property. That's why the state has ultimate authority to tell us yes, no, whatever, because it's their water. We just have the right to use it. And that's why the state has that Division of Water Resources, which literally manages everything and that we report everything to. We have limited water rights. We have to be really careful how we use it. Sorry for the pixelated image, I didn't know until Liz told me. This is my dog and I up at the Mount Elbert Dairy 3 diversion station. So this is Bartlett Creek, it comes over here. We have a head gate about 50 yards up this way that opens up, it comes through this thing, goes through the measurement device, back into the creek. That's how we measure our Dairy 3 ditch right, essentially. But yeah, like I said, my family has a farm and a water right that's for more just to irrigate one field, right? So all of this work, all this money we've invested is for a really small amount and we have to be really careful how we use it.
Thank you, Bryce.
Oh, is that it?
That's the end.
Okay.
For our resources
There you
team.
Oh, no, there it is.
Oh, you got
There we go, okay, yeah. Like I was saying though, like it's not just me, right? We're fortunate that we have a full-time employee now. I'm very pleased with that and proud to do that work for the county. But I partner with CPD on a lot of things, right? I'm tied to with development, public works on infrastructure management and parks, rec and open space. A lot of the same concerns I have and a lot of the same assets I have play into their plan as well, especially the Hayden Rec site. I have an engineering team at Brown and Caldwell. Adam Kremers is my main engineering contact. Me and him have a great working relationship. We went to an RFP to select a new engineer last year because our current engineers our past engineers were not fun. His assistant Skylar helps him a lot too. And then we have the legal team of Chris and Melissa. And then our water specialist firm out of Glenwood Springs is Chris Geiger and his assistant Ryan Scheich. So it's not just me, we have a lot of folks that weigh in on everything in all our decision making.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryce.
Yeah, questions?
How does this, the interstate agreement that kind of fell through last year, does that affect us at all, or is that Colorado River?
The Colorado River Compact, right now, Colorado's in negotiations. It's upper basin versus lower basin, right? We're basically trying to make California more accountable for their water use on the Colorado. It doesn't affect us now, and that's because Colorado has historically never used the share of the Colorado River we were allocated. California uses twice as much as they were allocated. So that's where, Colorado is basically saying if we're gonna be leaders in stewardship and conservation practices for water, it doesn't mean anything if it goes downstream and is used, not efficiently or really badly. So that's where the compact is going. It doesn't affect our water and our water users. But the end result will if those regulations change.
And same thing with the Shoshone water rights?
Shoshone water right's really interesting because it's a water right that comes directly off the Colorado River that was meant to power a power plant that's now obsolete. But because of how early that water right is, the entire Colorado River regime runs on the Shoshone water right. And so they're figuring out, we can't abandon this water right, you know, but we can't put it to beneficial use anymore, which the law says we have to do to maintain the water right. And so the Shoshone water right, they're actually crafting, it's like a new process, but they're giving that water right to the CWCB, Colorado Water Conservation Board, which is the authority that can hold environmental water rights essentially. So we have a lot of streams in Lake County with guaranteed minimum flows because the CWCB owns what's called an in-stream flow right on them. You know, it's not being put to beneficial use, but it has an environmental benefit that everyone recognizes. And so the state has the authority to maintain a minimum flow essentially. That's what they're trying to do with the Shoshone water right. Is, okay, the state owns it, that way everything, the whole regime can stay the same. Because the knock-on effects of getting rid of it would be extreme and change the whole way the Western water infrastructure works.
So interesting.
There's one, but the Arkansas, the reason we are the most water constrained basin in the state. We have the most demand, right? Colorado Springs, Aurora ships a bunch of water back into the South Platte Basin from our basin. It's a large basin, it's super arid. And we also have the Colorado-Kansas River Compact from 1946 that ties our hands behind the back with how we can use our water. Because we have to guarantee a certain amount of water crosses the state line of Kansas.
It seems dry down there, I've driven
It's
it.
so dry.
The river basin itself.
The river dries up, and it has always historically dried up since for the first accounts of it in the 1800s.
Yeah.
But, right, physical water does not flow to Kansas anymore. It's a hydrologic calculation to make sure they get 40% of the river across the state line.
How does it get there? What do you mean? Through their groundwater or?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all groundwater, and so you have to, especially down there, your lag depletions, transit losses are really important in the calculation. And so the water gets even harder to administer the further down you get towards the state line. You know, we have a lot of constraints, but we're at the headwaters. We have that benefit of where the water comes from.
Right, so
Seeing
it's-
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But water everywhere, not a drop for us to use,
Right.
right? So,
a dry basin,
yeah,
right?
well, and just because we don't own the rights to it.
Right, that's why I've heard it called a dry basin,
Dry-
because we actually don't, because it's or it's like over, claimed,
Overallocated.
over allocated, yeah.
Yeah, and it has been since the 1880s.
Wow.
So, like, just one last thing. Because that Colorado compact with Kansas makes it so that we can never have what's called a free river condition. Every right in Arkansas that's been adjudicated by court will never come into priority. Whereas in the Colorado River, almost every year, they have more water than they do water rights. And so you can just be like, cool, I'm filling my reservoir because it's called a free river condition. The Arkansas River hasn't been in free river since 1999 and probably never will be again. So any water rights past 1912 basically never come into priority and never yield water.
Wow.
But we need a reservoir. So it's a battery for our water power.
Yeah, and that's what I've been working on is like the Hayden Rec Pond was designed to hold water for the system, but then because of GOCO funding, they said you can't use it for water conveyance for 20 years, it has to be recreational. And
Huh.
and
Can't
so
do
that
that.
expired in 2021, but now it's like one of our best recreational assets, right? So I'm trying to find a way to use it for storage that doesn't kill the fish, essentially, right? Because typical storage is high fluctuations. If you ever go to the forebay, you'll see how much that fluctuates. And that's what we have to do now to kill the fish, ruin the recreational asset. So I've been trying to think of some creative accounting practices in partnership with Aurora to outside observers, the water level never changes, but the color of the water, the accounting of the water in there is changing between us and Aurora based on who needs it when.
These are, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm giggling.
These are informational sessions for us, these work sessions. In the event the public has questions, anyone who's watching, where should they direct those, or is it appropriate to answer public questions during a county work session? I'm not sure of the procedure of that.
It is at
We
the
get to
discretion
decide.
of the board.
So do you have any input on those questions, Bryce? I think I have answers for those, but I would rather defer to your expertise.
Sure, I think the plan is designed to prevent high density housing. Someone can come in with a proposal for a subdivision or for an apartment complex or something that is higher density, but they would have to basically bring in their own water supply to dedicate to the enterprise. The enterprise regulations are set up currently to kind of allow for low density development, right? Additional housing on plots of land that are already out there. I can't speak to the fire hydrants.
It's Parkville, right?
That'd be Parkville
Yeah.
and the fire department.
That's outside of, and in the future, I don't know if we're gonna have time to answer all the public's questions, I just wanna honor them when we are able to.
Good job, Andy. Bryce, what's your background? How'd you get into this, and are you talking, your family ranches here in Lake County?
Greeley, Colorado,
Oh,
actually.
Greeley.
So I'm fourth generation Coloradan, from the Greeley area, and my family still has a farm there with water rights, and my grandpa filed a water right in water court when it was brand new in 1973. And so I kind of grew up with an understanding of, you have to call the ditch rider to come open up your head gate, and that it's all part of a bigger plan. You don't just own the water, you can't just use it how you want. And that was on the South Platte Basin, which has a lot of similarities demand-wise and limitation-wise as the Arkansas Basin. So I've always had kind of an interest in water. I mean, Ann can speak to that. And through Sarah's stewardship, I think there was an opportunity for me to learn more and take over more responsibility in the county. And especially with the background I got in planning, it made a lot of sense, and something I'm super passionate about. The joke is like, water rights are super dry, but I find it fascinating, even the tiny little nuances of it.
My grandmother was born in Greeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Delph Carpenter is like the hero in Colorado water, right? He's the guy that first figured out interstate compacts, or led to the origin of them, because he was taking all the water. Water comes from Colorado, it's ours.
Yeah.
I don't care how much used to flow into your state.
Right.
He's a Greeley born and raised guy, and so Greeley has a history of really forward-thinking water development. Like, Greeley has a bunch of water rights and reservoirs in Colorado, or Rocky Mountain National Park area, and so Greeley's kind of like Pueblo, where they knew they were gonna develop. They did a good job early on of acquiring water. And one of the South Platte Water Court is based in Greeley, and the Arkansas Water Court's based in Pueblo.
Okay.
But yeah, my background is not necessarily, I don't have an engineering degree. I'm one of the few folks in this industry without an engineering degree. But it made a lot of sense, especially given my background and interests.
Passions are.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I just wanna make sure that we're helping Mel understand that Bryce was here to give us information about county water, and Parkville and the higher density housing that's being proposed within the city is a completely different water supply. So Parkville's water supply is not limited in the way that Bryce has been talking about. So I just want you to understand that high density housing is not being proposed in the county. Probably what you're hearing about is high density housing being proposed within, technically it is the county, but on Parkville water, not on county water.
Correct.
Even though the Harrison ball fields were proposing high density housing, that may be within the county, but it is on Parkville water supply.
Yes.
So I just don't want us to lose that or be confused about.
And I think it's worth noting, we want to incentivize development in areas with hookups to central utilities.
Right.
That makes the most sense, right?
Right.
So we wanna kind of push those folks to can you hook up to Parkville? Cause that makes a lot more sense for a municipal high density water supply.
Yeah. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you. Time check, headache check, Michael, are you good?
Sorry, Michael.
Thanks, Bryce.
Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me go first. You're a guinea pig.
Go charge your solar batteries on the beach.
For the remaining of the work session, we have road and bridge, landfill and recycling center, maintenance and transit. I just got checked how everyone's doing. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm still awake.
alright, that's good.
Nothing against you.
I just wasn't worried about the people sitting in those chairs.
You can sign that, that's just to allow us to be your proxies for CCI.
Alright, thank
And
you.
by the end of the day.
Do you wanna sit up here, do you wanna sit, where do you wanna be?
Here's fine.
Okay.
You drive?
I can drive.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom, so Chris will drive for a second.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, starting with Road and Bridge, some of the history is, yes, Road and Bridge is a statutory department. It's required by statute. It is the duty of the county commissioners to establish and maintain roads. It devolves on the Board of County Commissioners. The power to is granted by statute to establish, maintain, keep roads open, for travel. And that was dated back in 1935, that's the earliest thing I could find on statute for a road. Other than, there are some other things like when the federal government determined what was a road and what wasn't. County highway systems, it's required that there shall be established in the county a primary and a secondary road system, and we do have that in our county. County roads with just a number, like County Road 9 or 4, like that, that's a primary road. County roads with a letter after that number are secondary roads. Or roads that just have street names, those are also secondary roads. Keep going. More on the county primary systems. County commissioners shall select county primary system roads, based on the greatest general importance. And it shall constitute an integrated system within itself with the state highway system. So all of our county roads basically go and meet with the state highway system and are all branches off of that system. Secondary system, the county shall cause a map to be made showing each of those roads, and it's kind of in that map. Included with that map, there used to be a plain road map hanging on the wall, but it's no longer here. So road supervisors, the county system, both primary and secondary roads shall be assigned to the county for construction and maintenance. The Board of County Commissioners of each county shall accept in counties where the boundaries therein coincide with the boundaries of a city or don't coincide with the boundary of the city. So you appoint a road supervisor for all roads constituting the county system. And you appoint those appointed supervisors shall be competent to handle those responsibilities. You can appoint more than one person, that's all up to you. And you can appoint people that are outside of the county even to maintain your roads or to supervise your roads. But they have to be properly qualified.
Michael is your road supervisor.
Yes, I am. I'm the dedicated road supervisor. The board shall also determine the general policies of the county as to highway matters and shall be carried out and administered by the county road supervisors. So what you tell me to do, that's what I'll do to the best of my ability.
We only have to defer to CDOT on our interstate or our state highways.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that is some of the different state highways, 91, 24, 82. That all falls under county or state jurisdiction. All of the county roads, which are secondary to the state roads, fall under the county. And except for the city streets and roads, that all falls under the city.
Okay, thanks.
That's the part it was talking about, that unless it goes into the city or another designated area.
Okay.
County road budgets, the commissioners shall prepare a preliminary budget, like we will every year, before we do the final budget. And it'll show you the anticipated revenues coming for the next year, and then the sources and where they come from. And it should be compiled and it will show separately the anticipated revenues and expenditures of the county road system. So basically I have 3 sections of the road and bridge budget that show county road maintenance, county road administration, county road construction. So it all falls into one place right now, but they're still separated into 3 different budgets. The county the commissioners are also required to file an annual report. Our finance department does do that every year in June. If we do not follow the report, the state can hold the money back that we get for HUTF funds, which are highway users tax funds. And they can hold those funds from us until the report is filed. We only had that happen once that I know of, and I wasn't a supervisor then. But we got it taken care of within a month and we got the money right away, so.
Can you talk about how we use your trust fund and how some federal advocacy might be needed?
Yes. So, on the state level or on the federal level?
Do both.
The federal level, obviously, you know, everybody's pushing for electric vehicles and stuff. Right now, the highway users tax is based on gasoline taxes. So it's gasoline taxes that are collected by the state, and sent to the federal government. Even the state taxes are sent to the federal government and returned. I mean, it's like a lot of paperwork. But when the state gets them back, it gets separated several ways. The state obviously gets their cut first, and it pays for the state highways and the state patrol. And then counties get a cut, and it's broken down several ways, but the main thing is 17 counties get a whole bunch of money, and the rest of the counties get a little bit of money. We're one of those little bit of money counties, so basically we get about 750 grand from HUTF funds every year. So that's,
At CCI, we did go through HUTF and the ridiculous calculations and
It is.
phasing and who gets what, and they even showed us like they pulled out what each county gets, not the whole report, not all 64, but they pulled out like, you know, the first 20. And we could totally see the wild difference
Yeah.
between all of them.
Yeah,
so we get,
it made
like I
me
said, a
so
little bit of
jealous.
money, and
Yeah.
there's counties that get, 20 million.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A lot of those are on the front range, but there's a couple of them that are out in the wild also. That get a lot of money. Well County gets quite a bit of money, it's a big county, but
Yeah.
some of the counties on the western slope do too. So I'm not sure who their representatives were when that was all decided,
Right,
but they
yeah.
did a good job of getting themselves put on the list.
It was so wild.
So what does our department do? We maintain, repair, construct, plow snow, from the county roads and subdivisions. We serve with everybody in the county at some point, including in the city. We do help the city out sometimes. So, and all the visitors can, obviously, if our roads weren't good enough to drive here, like even in the wintertime, we wouldn't have visitors here. Cause it was no, we're not going there. A lot of things right now, with the state, every time they close I-70, all that traffic comes here. So, they get stuck over here, they can't go the other way over 24, so they, either go through town or stay until the road's open. They get to still be able to get around the county. And that is one of my biggest things with a snowstorm, is all the primary roads get open first to get people out, because then we know that people have to leave the county to go to work. So we get them to a state highway where they can probably do that. And we have the school, we gotta worry about the kids getting to the school. So we make sure all those routes are pretty much open. And then we go into the neighborhoods.
I've seen a map recently and
Well, Hickory too.
can you chime in on the validity of, it was a prioritization of how,
So see it here pretty soon.
oh, okay, how the roads were plowed. Okay, and I'll wait, I'll hold that for a second.
Okay. So some of the projects that we are working on in the future are things that are coming up, and how we interact with the community. We do obviously county communications here, like in meetings. Public Works has service requests, so you can get to those online through any of the Public Works departments. So you can request if there's a pothole that needs to be filled that you don't like hitting anymore. We get to those as soon as we can. Right now, our maintenance department gets most of those service requests, and they're from basically buildings or recreational facilities, but we do get several at Road and Bridge also. We do have a Facebook. That's about all I do on social media. I'm not that into it. We do have a 5-year bridge replacement project that we got grant funds to complete. We did finish County Road 11 last year. We do have some repair work on top of it, like asphalt. We didn't get to it because it was frozen already. County Road 5A is to be done this fall. That one should not keep anybody from getting to their houses or not having to do a big detour. Because I can close that down on either side and it doesn't really affect anybody getting to their house. County Road 4 to Arkansas will be fall of 2026. That's just west of the railroad tracks on County Road 4. And both of those are in the engineering process right now so that we can get the bridges purchased. Hopefully early enough to get a better deal on them or lower prices again. County Road 9 in Tennessee Creek, which is just west of the railroad tracks going up to Turquoise Lake. Those are all culverts and there's about 6 of them there that get plugged all the time. So that's the next one. And then on County Road 3, which is on the east side of town, there's several crossings that are all culverts that get plugged by the beavers or anything, you know, during runoff and stuff that gets brought down to them. We've had a couple of them wash out and wash down the road and wash it out so people could not get from their houses back to town. We worked on them at nighttime so they could get back to their houses or get out of their houses. And then the last one is, we're supposed to help the U.S. Forest Service at Halfmoon Creek up by the Mount Massive trailhead. Replace that big culvert that's up there.
Didn't that one get replaced not that long ago?
No, that one's been there forever.
Okay.
It's all the way up the top.
Oh,
About an
further
8-foot
up.
culvert.
Okay, I'm thinking further down
Yeah,
probably.
no, we did that one a while back.
Okay,
And that, we looked at doing that one, but since it's a brand new culvert, we didn't do anything with it.
yeah.
That was in the future plan.
You good?
Yeah.
Next.
So here's the priority route. Like I said, most of the county roads, priority roads are green, the big roads that get everybody into the county or to a state highway.
Yeah,
Most of the neighborhoods, and that one really shouldn't be green.
that's what I was wondering, why are those two little neighborhoods that are that kind of dead
I couldn't
end?
get him to change them back to red.
Oh, okay.
But,
Saves me a lot of questions there.
yeah, no, like here, the Mount Massive is a main road, that's why it's there. But the side roads don't get that until later, until everything's open.
Okay,
Some of the stuff in the southern part of the county is red because normally the southern part of the county doesn't get the snow like we do up here. Usually you can go around the corner at Saturdays and it's like night and day.
yeah,
So if we don't have to plow down there, we bring everybody up into town or in the northern part of the county. If it's required, every one of these roads will get done normally the first day. Very few have to wait till the second day.
yeah. I know there's a lot of public grumbling and stuff, but for where we're at and what we have to work with, I think you guys are doing a good job.
And unfortunately, I lost another employee the other day.
Oh,
Gave 2 week notice to go to over the hill. Michael Marcella. He's going to Wagner Equipment, so.
You gotta make sure Corey and Eddie are still there, but great drivers, so.
Right. Good for the next one.
How many positions do you have open there at Road and Bridge?
I have 2 operator positions, but I only have the one that I'm losing open right now. I'm down at least 2 operators right now, so.
Do you wanna add some staff for the summer, or do you add, part-time or temporary summer staff?
No, that was taken out of our budget and stuff quite a while back, one of the, previous HR people didn't like summertime help. So it has never been added back in.
Just-
Yeah, we used to use it all the time, especially when we were paving to, you know, do help with road closures or shoveling asphalt and stuff. That's one of the things also, since we haven't worked really closely with the city, we usually, you know, use some of their guys when we're paving too. They usually do give us a couple truck drivers or something, and, you know, if we gotta drive to DB to get asphalt. So, yeah, anytime we can use their guys or they can use ours, we do. One thing I would like to bring up though is we've talked in the past about doing stuff like with other counties, swapping out people. So if they're doing something and they need people, and we could do an IGA with them to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We used to borrow equipment from Summit County and they, same with them, but as soon as their commissioners wanted to do an IGA, that quit.
I think that makes all the sense in the world, because we do that.
Yeah, because, I mean, they had a laid out machine that we borrowed, and they loved how we took care of it and took it back to them. They used our rollers and stuff, so we didn't have to buy, or they didn't have to buy equipment.
It just seems like a win-win to me.
It does.
Well, so Michael, let's explore that further. I'm not sure in terms of the opposition to part-time summer people, because I know we do that in other circumstances, like
Yeah,
with the
with
rec
recreation
department
and
and
stuff.
stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
know why, unless there was some issue with
We used to
seasonal.
have, interns from the high school also. Some of those interns have gone on to be employees of other bigger companies.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we direct HR to explore that?
Not right this minute, but I'll get with Michael and we'll get with Zoe to
Yeah.
see what the current situation is, why that's not favored, or if there's a different approach they prefer in terms of engaging those folks. And definitely with the IGA, if you have, if you still wanna do something with Summit County, just let us know and we'll tee something up for you.
yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, not only Summit County, but
Chafee.
like Gunnison, Chafee,
Yeah.
all of our neighbors. Gunnison, I have a really good, relationship with.
Yeah.
And one of my next workshops, work sessions, will be a presentation that I got from them to show you costs of building roads.
Yeah, let's hash some of this stuff out. We've got you on deck on our short list here, so we'll dive into some of that stuff real soon here. Excited about
Yep.
that.
So budget revenues, charges for services, is basically, I would also call that a tax. But it's like from the clerk's office, charges for license plates and stuff, I believe. This one's really funny. I'll point it out. I hate this word.
Yeah, that's a big
That's
question.
It's big
Those amounts
miscellaneous.
of money. But the HETF funds are listed under that,
Okay.
and we're trying to get them changed back to intergovernmental, what it should be.
Okay.
So this intergovernmental is from pill funding, which last year dropped to $350,000. So pill funding is payment in lieu of taxes for all of the Forest Service land in the county. Those funds go to road and bridge for roads. And I haven't figured out really the reason why it dropped 100,000, except for we kept $100,000 of SRS funds, which are secure rural school funds from the federal government, which they consider the same funding. So they could have taken that back this year from that. I haven't verified that yet because I haven't been able to track it, but the license and permits is for our excavation permits that are going on, especially with XL in the county. And that's to fix, if they don't repair it, we got the money to fix it. So a lot of that right now goes into a bond fund with the treasurer's office. So I really can't spend that, but it's income from road and bridge. And taxes are also special use taxes to the clerk's office. Well, that was easy. So our asset management plan, this would show where our money for paving is. Right now, it's not there because that's up to you guys to put that number there. I was looking at about $300,000 for the next 2 years.
How many years?
For the next 2 years in a row.
Oh, 300 each year.
Yeah, anything that you could add to that would be great.
But they didn't put aside any money for that, I thought they did in their budget.
I think it was in there, but it didn't show up on here
Oh, okay.
For, which one?
for, asset
Paving.
management plan.
I pulled this from the 12-13, so if there's something that changed in the past month.
Okay.
I wonder if it's, since it's not an asset management, it might have been rolled up into, is it rolled up into? your
It could be
professional
under supplies,
services?
but
Supplies, yeah.
Yeah, that looks more.
I hate to add time on this, but can we go back one slide, please? Where's this extra $1.2 million and change coming from, on miscellaneous or revenue?
It's HETF.
They bumped it up that much, or,
Oh, you mean the extra
yeah,
and help?
it's a huge difference here,
I'm not
what's,
sure where that came from either.
Hang on, let me put my notes.
I mean, that would pave a lot of roads.
Yeah, I mean, they go from $2 to $3 million.
Yeah, what's up with that? If it's just a typo, we could just move on real quick, but it caught my eye and I wanted to
Super legit, Andy.
ask about that.
I wonder if it is the typo, if that's supposed to be 1.3.
1.3 makes more sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's still a $300,000 increase.
So they
Or
cut
I
it,
would show it maybe in there, well, that's
290.
miscellaneous income, so I don't know if that's transferred
Could be any.
in the board.
And it's good,
On the board.
it's funny that a typo goes
So I have
across the graph.
miscellaneous as the pilt.
yeah, but not, our pilt isn't that much.
Okay,
What do you show for miscellaneous?
that,
The 2.3?
but I can pull it right now to Tyler.
Yeah, let's just circle back with us on that and we'll keep moving forward. Please, thank you.
good catch.
I'd like to have that much in budget,
Yeah, me too. I'd like that for you.
Fill in the blank.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause then you'd have an extra $600,000 to offset your spending versus your revenue.
If you wanna go back one,
Oh, I'm sorry, that.
Right now, your total expenses are 2.5
right,
and your current income revenue is 3.1.
yeah, so, that'd be nice to build up the
Sick,
budget.
yeah. Love it. You guys followed through on your campaign promise, love that.
Obviously, personnel is the highest budget item. Professional services, and I'm, like I said, I'm not sure that went from 100,000 to 500,000 also. That is basically engineering fees. Other professional services like rental equipment, stuff that we have to contract out for. Services are for like striping, mag chloride. And then supplies are, I got a lot of money for supplies. For like cutting edges, tires,
Asphalt?
wear parts. No, cause that should come under
That'll go.
asset management, but they could have been added back down there, so that could be a supply.
And the difference in other expenses and supplies from 2024 to 25, it looks like it just got moved
Yeah,
to put it into the right spot instead
So
of
that
like
could be-
catching it in other,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
as we go through finance adjustments.
Looks tidier.
Yeah, makes more sense. Cool.
and then training. Try to do a lot of training. Yes. So our short-term goals are to attract and recruit and retain local employees, like to keep people in the county. So yes, I would give them first choice.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to train them. Most of the operators need to have a CDL. I have one that I'm working on to get one right now, otherwise everybody else has a CDL. Plan is to complete infrastructure and road maintenance we have that box culvert on 5A, planning and engineering on the other ones. This summer, we hope to plan for sure County Road 4 from where we left off at Evergreen Drive all the way to the railroad tracks. And depending on funding, carrying on County Road 5 further past the golf course. And then County Road 5 and 11 are on the next couple of years paving projects. So right now, what we're focusing on with paving is county roads, primary county roads that everybody uses. That's why County Road 4 is important, County Road 5. They're like the bypass around Leadville that everybody uses. And they're kind of in the worst shape. County Road 11, obviously we got the pits down there, they put a lot of weight on that road and it's just getting torn up.
But when do the neighborhoods, you know, like West Park's got some battlefields
We
over
might need to
there.
discuss that, because that needs sidewalks and everything.
Yeah,
And generally we probably have to hire a contractor to do the sidewalks.
yeah,
Do we own the sidewalks?
Yes, they belong to the county, but the maintenance is supposed to be with the homeowners.
Okay,
That's what's written in the plats for that subdivision.
would that be a special assessment to the homeowners on their tax?
That's part of their property,
And by the way, I don't get any county general fund property tax funds into Road and Bridge. So none of the tax funds go to Road and Bridge from the county. Unless you decide to put them there, but then you can't take them back.
and a couple things we've worked on with that, we did apply for, the Infrastructure Investment Act and what was it, Inflation Reduction Act? The RAISE grants, and some other huge federal grants. Some come with like a small cost share, others come with a big cost share. And then the one of them I think is 100% grant, but with the change in federal administration, I don't know that the money would be there for that, but West Park would be an eligible area for that because it, the drainage issues there.
Yeah.
And then everything with the rail yard and all of that and climate change, so having that area be a climate resilient area with infrastructure, things like that was part of the grant application. So we worked on a couple ideas. Michael has an idea, it could be a special improvement district or metro district, be another metro district in the county, but I mean, we were able, you know, when the flooding happened 2 years ago on Homestake,
Yeah, we were able to repave that road.
yeah, we were able to repave, we got one. But yes, that is definitely on the radar.
So I know that most of the streets in like West Park have been overlaid several times to where their asphalt is now higher than the curb.
yeah.
So they need to be taken back down to dirt and brought back up. Problem
Strip
is
regrinded.
trying to pave up to a sidewalk that's not there is difficult.
Right,
Yeah,
those need to be done at the same time,
Yes,
or dig out the sidewalks, do those first.
or yeah, kind of like when they did Mount Massive. That was a $3 million project to do Mountain View and Mount Massive.
Yeah,
Those sidewalks were all done at the same time as a paving project, they were done before we paved.
yeah.
And that changed also the type of sidewalk that's in West Park. So right now, they've got mountable curbs so you can drive up on the curb
yeah.
and the sidewalk. Down on Mount Massive, you really can't do that, that's why there's so many driveway openings. Because people wanted 2 driveways into their yard, the county allowed that. In a neighborhood like that, it's kind of difficult to keep adding driveways.
Do you have a budget for maintaining the newly paved roads?
No, it's just in our normal budget, we do maintenance on the roads.
Okay.
We do that all the time, so.
Can you extend the life of an overlay or extend the life of a?
With the last ones that we did, which was County Road 99 and County Road 10, the year after we paved them, we did chip seal on them to seal the asphalt again and put a better wear surface on it. The chip seal will help the plows not tear up the asphalt as much. Cause it'll wear out the plow before it'll wear out the chip seal.
Yeah.
And both of those roads have been held up really well. In fact, we extended County Road 10, from County Road 24 to County Road 10M, which goes up to Panhard.
Yeah.
That was all done with crushed asphalt and reclamite, so it draws the oil back out of the crushed asphalt. So that's really not an asphalt road, but the state sees it as an asphalt road.
Which gets us more money,
Huh?
which gets us more money in the,
Yeah, so it brings up that condition of that road to an asphalt road and, a good condition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does add to our paved mileage. Also, long-term goals are finding, funding sources to support ongoing roads repairs and paving. And the plan for paving County Road 5 and County Road 11 are future long-term goals.
Next.
Yes. So what do I wish the community here to know? Road and Bridge is a multifaceted department. We're considered first responders for emergencies for any emergency that could happen, flood or anything, and all the way through cleanup, following a lot on public works. So yeah, we are there. We were at the fire this year too, this last year. Employees at Road and Bridge do a lot of various activities throughout the year. Obviously, the biggest thing is plowing snow, sometimes 9 months a year. And then removing when we plow it to the side in the neighborhoods, we try to go back and get it off of there to give people, the road back. Sometimes it gets nice right after a snowstorm when we can start that process. Otherwise, we just keep getting snowstorms and we're on the first day.
It takes a while.
So we will get there sooner or later. Obviously, road construction, maintenance, repair, bridge repairs, culvert repairs. And that's just a short list of what we do. We do a lot for other departments in the county also, like roads. So, we're busy.
Yep. Well, I think most people in the community can agree that we wanna support you and enhance your capabilities as best as we can while we're here.
Ready for this one?
Yes. So no, this department is and isn't, statutorily required. There are state statutes for landfills, but basically the statute tells the Department of Health what regulations they want, and the Department of Health has to make those regulations. And then the Department of Health passes those down to us. A lot of them are underfunded or not funded at all. Like electronics recycling is not funded, but it's required by the state that we do it. And it's not required that the county does it, but it can't go into our landfill. So the only way to keep it out of the landfill is to catch it at the gate. So that's why we do electronics recycling. The current landfill was dedicated in the same spot it is right now in 1962. So it's been there since then. It was redesignated in 2018 with the new EDOP for the landfill that we're currently working on. Right now, we're working on an expansion at the landfill. The current EDOP, there's enough permitted land to last for about 250 years, as long as all of the next cells are permitted. And hopefully they won't make us close the landfill. Right now, we're working on an 8-acre site there that will require it to be lined. The state will no longer let us have an unlined landfill. And since 1962, this landfill has been unlined. And that was because of groundwater testing that came back to show a lot of VOCs. Nothing at a level that we have to do something with yet, but they don't want to create more. Nothing that goes a limit.
Yeah.
You explain what an EDOP is?
An EDOP is an engineering, design, and operations plan. And they all have to be approved by CDPHE, the one that we have right now, We're working on answering some questions that they have for this next expansion, and getting a response back to them. So we go back and forth like that until they're all happy.
Yeah.
And then they will bring something to you for you guys to redesignate that area.
Did you talk about the county engineer in your previous one?
No,
Just
just,
thinking on that we just go broad.
yeah, because that's a different one from here.
Okay, alright,
But we do have with Road and Bridge, an engineer to help us design everything. He does have a contract to help design all of the bridge projects right now. It's not just one person, but it's Kinley Horn, same as people that have done engineering at the airport. And so at least through these 5 bridges, they are contracted to be the engineer on those projects. The engineer for this is an environmental engineer out of Denver. He's basically been our engineer for the last 15 to 20 years. And worked us through all of the expansions with CDPHE and kept us in compliance. When he first got on with the county and I first got on with the county was out of compliance with the landfill. And we were under a consent order to get things fixed. And with his help and my help, we're out of that consent order now, and every, last inspections for probably the last 10 years have been without incidents, no requirements from the state. So I like to keep it that way. I like to keep a nice pretty landfill out there. And the staff out there is wonderful at doing that, so. Yep. So what do? We operate the landfill and recycling center, also including 2 drop-off sites, one at the community park and one at County Road 10, right by the fire station. We serve basically all the residents and visitors of Lake County again. We try to get them to use the drop-off sites so that they don't leave trash out in the forest. And buy the yellow bags so they can go and dump their trash before they leave town. The outcomes for the county are that we don't have to go out of county to go to a landfill. If we lose this current landfill, that would be the next thing. And that would be a big burden on the county itself. Yeah, we'd have to could only do a transfer station, or we could collect it and then haul it out of county, or the residents would have to haul it out of county. The state has looked at, and I think there is a plan out there to do regional landfills. And if they do that, we want Lake County to be a regional landfill. Otherwise, we have to go like 40 miles out to go to a landfill at least.
Yeah, we'll be driving
Not
over
all
to
the way to
Wolf,
go to Denver, yeah.
and you know, when we follow up on the next time we meet, I have more to talk about with that, but I'll save it for then.
if you do have that plan, Michael, will you send it to us,
That what?
the regional plan?
Yeah, I will.
Talk about the
I'll
regional.
make sure that you get that. Yep. How do you interact with the community? Obviously, the best way is right at the gate. The guys at the gate, forward facing, they get to talk to everybody that comes through there. They get to do inspections of the trash that they bring in there. And newspaper, that's how we tell people that we're closed, or signage on the road. You know, a lot of people don't like the fact that we're closed Wednesday and Thursday, but that is only to the public. We're open to commercial people. And we prefer that the commercial people even use the recycle center during Wednesday and Thursday, because our guys are there to help them get things taken care of. Wednesday and Thursday are our days to catch up for the weekend, to get all the bins sorted and taken care of with the recycling, to get the landfill taken care of and covered up, because we have to cover it every day, and that's why I have people there Wednesday and Thursday, because whether we're open or not, as long as we take in trash, it has to be covered daily. That's why you have a tarp system, so that we can lay out the tarp system as long as it's not snowing. But fortunately, if it snows, that's considered cover for Lake County. We have that in our EDLPs as an alternate daily cover. Otherwise, we have to put 6 inches of soil on it, and that's what we do on Wednesday and Thursdays, cover it with soil to meet the standards that are required by the state. Um, Current projects we're working on of the landfill expansion, the estimated cost is about $1.2 million right now. Let's see, I think it's in the budget, but I would ask for $500,000 a year over the next 4 years to cover that. Most of the cost is engineering costs and getting approvals from the state, before we start construction. Biggest problem with this one is being lined, has to have a clay liner and probably an HDPE liner for 8 acres to cover, and then we have to collect, leachate that comes off the landfill and through a piping system underneath the landfill. And then we have to recycle that leachate either back into the landfill so it can digest more trash, but hopefully it's just a circle thing and we don't have to carry it off-site someplace.
Is it the same with gas?
What's that?
Is it the same with gases?
Gases we can probably burn
Okay, awesome.
at some point. We do have one well that does produce methane.
Right.
Not enough to actually do anything with it,
Mhm.
except for the state wants us to monitor it and monitor all of our buildings right now. Anything that is enclosed has to have monitoring in it 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
Luckily, right now, we've not had any gas buildups in buildings. Because methane is odorless, tasteless, and it's very deadly. So we also applied for a grant with the EPA. We won't know until Christmas next year, it might be a good Christmas present. For like a $4 million grant to do a recycling expansion facility out there and hopefully do a single stream type thing so that it all gets pushed into one pile and then the machine sorts it. And very little having to touch it by hands. They're awesome systems, I've seen them in Denver, the Waste Management does those in Denver. They still have people picking off the line, but the way that it sorts, the stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
So our budget is basically charges for services, all of the fees collected at the landfill, is what creates my budget, or the budget out there. The miscellaneous is recycling income. And most of that is created by the steel pile that's at the landfill. We try to hold on to that as long as we can until the steel price goes up, then we have it hauled to Denver.
Smart.
And the taxes there are sales tax collected on the yellow bags. We have to collect that too. Yep. The asset management plan there was to pay for, half of the new compactor that's out there. And the asset management plan got taken off of there too. But I had asked for $500,000 a year just to make sure that we had enough to continue construction of the next landfill.
Was that approved? And why is it not in here? It wasn't approved?
I don't think it was.
I don't think for 25 it was. I'll need to double check though.
But I still have money in professional services to pay for, the engineer anyways. Personnel, other expenses are, I hate that word. Fees that we have to pay when we take stuff to other places. Just don't have, without seeing exactly what's in that
Yeah.
category, I can't really say right now. Professional personnel, obviously, are the 7 people that we have out there. Professional services are like a contractor for, engineering out there. Services provided are heavy equipment costs that we have out there that we have to pay somebody else to come and fix. Supplies are just everything that we use at the landfill. Fuel, heating, stuff like that. Training, I did have high, but I took it down this year because they didn't use any training last year. Not saying that they won't this year, but because I have new people that I need to get trained on operations at the landfills. And that's usually pretty high. That's through a SWANA class, which is Solid Waste Association of America. they provide all the landfill training, all the gas monitoring and stuff like that, so. Short-term goals again are to attract and recruit local employees. Like I said, right now I have a full staff out there, which is awesome. One time I was down to 3 people. That's when I had to close on the weekend, a little bit, Sunday and Monday. And I know that one of our trash people didn't like that, but I had no choice. And that was right after COVID or during COVID. Continued ride training for the landfill operators, and hopefully get some more guys that wanna get a CDL. Cause right now we do haul all of our recycling to Denver. And we have 2 guys out there that are CDL operators that do that so that they don't have to take away from Road and Bridge. Although if I need to, I'll send a Road and Bridge guy down there to do that. Working with the engineers, the car department health to get that future cell designed and laid out and installed so that we can continue working on that. I did find out, from the new survey program that I just purchased, with the budget money, we have probably 30 extra feet of airspace on the current landfill. So I've got room to work with while we're constructing this new cell. But I don't want to run out of room.
Yeah, you can only go up so far.
Yeah, and then they said, nope, no more, you gotta go do something else. And I don't want that to happen, so.
Sounds like a lot, but I can imagine we wanna not drop the ball on the
Yeah, no.
expansion.
We just finished filling the last expansion, which was a 3-acre expansion that was supposed to last at least 3 years. Didn't, it lasted a year and a half. And that's just the amount of people that are moving to Lake County, the construction that's going on. Climax brought a lot of stuff down to begin with. So we had a lot of people, bring other stuff in. We've had to bury trees, because we accept slash at the landfill, but we can't burn it. We now have an air burner that we can burn it in. That's why we still have a big pile of slash out there waiting to go in there. But for the last 5 years, the state wouldn't give us a burn permit. We used to get one to burn that pile once a year. They will give us one to burn an 8x8 pile, like once a week, once a day. And that's just not enough to keep up with the amount that comes in the landfill. But I can't have it up there ready to catch fire.
We need that generator for the burn box still, right?
Yeah, so that was also included in, that grant that we applied for, is to purchase that generator,
Okay.
so that we can tie it back in and make power back into the system.
That one that's come, we'll know at Christmas,
Yeah,
so we should have a
December 25.
contingency plan for that generator. How much is that thing?
900 grand.
Can't use the incinerator without it.
Oh, yeah, we can,
Oh.
we can burn,
Oh,
but
so-
it would just be nice to be able to burn and generate power so that we're doing something sustainable.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So that heat,
Yeah, the heat generate, turns the turbine and generates power.
and then you would sell the power or just feed?
Or feed it back into Excel system, we can sell it to Excel, as credits on our other bills. Obviously, to expand the landfill, reconstruct the sediment pond, right now it's not big enough for the amount of space that we have opened up. It just has to be built higher, so, that's in the plan with the expansion also. What do I wish the community knew about the landfill? The landfill and recycling center is a needed necessity in Lake County, for its residents and visitors. The landfill recycling is funded from fees received at the landfill. That's one of the things that I would always push for since I took over operations at the landfill, is not to have the county have to take anything out of the budget to put in the landfill, unless it was something like an expansion. And the county the last time had to put in like 140 grand, it's like, no, we don't need that. So we haven't had a transfer except for into the landfill closure fund. And that was it's been 70 grand for several years, just to keep building that fund up. the last time that we had to do a financial statement to the state, it was like $2.4 million, and we have about $1.4 million in the fund right now. So hopefully we don't have to close the landfill, and we can still keep building that fund up.
Mike, you said that the permit we have for our current landfill is 250
Yes,
years.
but every expansion, every time we do a new
Yeah.
cell,
Yeah,
like the 8 acres cell, it has to go back through permitting process. So we have, the acreage we have is big enough for 250 years, but the state has to approve each expansion.
so but we can't use that fund until the landfill is
Closes.
closed?
Oh,
So we can't touch that fund for 200, well, I mean, obviously, if the state keeps giving us permits
Yeah, so,
forever.
but we
it
have to
just
show
isn't-
the state that we are financially capable of closing it if they want it closed.
Is that a mandated minimum?
Yeah, it's how much area we have opened up. And we also have to maintain that once it's closed for 30 years, so that's all included in that price.
Got it, okay.
Is there I know we keep prolonging this, but it's Friday. Is there anything on the horizon with incinerating trash and creating energy from the trash?
All I know is that the EPA doesn't allow us to incinerate trash. I do know that there's places that do that. I don't know that we can get permitted to do that in the state. I don't know of any place in the state that incinerates their trash.
It's a European thing.
Too many byproducts or unknown byproducts and stuff that come off of that.
we'll be excited to have more conversations about this because there's so much to do over with the land.
We wanna make sure you have enough money for the equipment.
Ready for the next one, is that?
Yeah, I think it goes to
For
maintenance
maintenance, yeah.
now. So the maintenance department is not statutorily required. When was our department made? Probably when the first courthouse was built in the 1800s. And they needed custodians, so that became building and grounds. That's pretty much it. The maintenance departments take care of county buildings and parks and leased buildings. I'm not sure, I thought that got deleted, but that's the amount of crew I have, not the people that we serve. So we basically serve all of the residents of Lake County that use the parks or any of the facilities. Buildings and parks are maintained and usable, so we try to make sure that they're usable by all of the visitors of Lake County. That includes all the way south is Hayden Meadows and hopefully the new open space in the canyon. We'll have some things to do down there, I'm sure. Right now, we gotta deal with a lot of beavers at Hayden Meadows. And they don't like to go away, and they've built new dams even in the wintertime this year, so.
They're busy.
How do we interact with the community? Just, via service requests mainly, more from all the county offices than generally the public, but, the personal contact whenever they're out in the parks. Current projects that we're working on, obviously maintenance does certain things and seasonally, just like road and bridge. Like right now, plowing parking lots and taking care of sidewalks and making them safe for the public. In the summertime, they change over to taking care of the parks, mowing the grass, setting the parks up for recreation. They do a lot with recreation, they work really close with recreation. We try to make sure that all the county buildings and parks are maintained and clean working order for the public.
I wanna talk about vandalism and the road blaster.
And the what? And the what?
To add some levity, the road blaster.
Yeah,
The rodent blaster?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Just wanted to make sure.
that's what he said. keep forgetting about that, cause I've never seen the word,
I know, I just watched the YouTube
but,
videos.
Is it the
Waiting
boxes
to be
outside?
invited, no.
Oh, not the boxes, like.
I'll let Mike tell you about it.
so the rodent blaster is one of our parks. The Ice Palace Park was being overtaken by groundhogs. Unsafe for the public,
Yeah.
unsafe for animals because of all the holes and stuff. So basically, we tried everything, traps, etc. We couldn't obviously poison things
Right.
because that would just move on to other animals, feed birds and stuff like that. So they make this thing called a rodent blaster. It basically puts propane in the hole and ignites it. And it takes care of the rodents. It is approved all across the United States to use.
Okay.
How do you get trained?
Huh?
These guys are gonna help you with the asphalt, I am happy to help with the rodent blaster.
Okay.
You just call me up.
Lucky.
Please, yeah.
Oh.
Rodent man.
And 3 supplemental requests,
Yes.
capital request, and it was the highlight of the year.
Yeah.
The vandalism drives me nuts.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going as far as on the east side of town now, on the Mineral Belt Trail. A lot of the warming shacks are weather shacks up there.
Yeah.
They're painting those now, they painted the bridges several times. We have cameras in the parks, I think they prosecuted 1 person.
Out of how many cases brought forth?
Every time we get them, obviously it goes to the police department, but we don't know how far they go. We were able to get pictures of this 1 person because he also did it at the library, broke windows at the library.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's the same guy.
And that's how we got him, because they had a better view of him on their cameras and on the Ice Palace Park.
We've tried lots of things, I mean, right, when the toilets just kept getting broken, like my first summer, I was like, close it, put up a porta john. Sorry, community, but I'm not gonna keep spending money on toilets. We have prosecuted some
Which
of the.
toilets?
Huh?
Which toilet?
Huck Finn?
No, Ice Palace Park.
Well,
that
yeah,
was also-
Huck Finn, Ice Palace Park, Kitty
Kitty
Corral.
Corral,
They're
And-
breaking the porcelain toilet?
yeah,
Mhm.
taking,
Lots of pictures and a very choice email I'll share with you.
Same with the
after.
schools,
Yeah, I
so it's
love
kind of like a
getting
thing.
some of the pictures I get of toilets, it's like, really?
Right.
That's just what I wanted to see today.
But a lot of it is, from what we've seen is, youth driven, so we've worked, we've prosecuted a couple of the kids and it kind of calmed down after that. Adam Ducharme from tourism has like explored like grant opportunities, or what was it, to get like a tagging wall. So you like intentionally build a wall for people to go and tag and they can do that. Or like, could we do murals up on the bridges for the mineral belt? But it's extremely frustrating and it's extremely expensive.
What about
Yeah.
just like, it's part of our culture, like this is absolutely the same across the country, how much is it worth? I absolutely understand like a toilet getting broken, but the like tagging, how much is that? Honestly, how much of that is worth our time?
I mean, it depends on
There's studies.
What's on there?
what's on there.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah, I get it,
And like the
You're trying to
library,
make a place for people to go visit, like the mining district.
Yeah.
And some of the old buildings, you can't even tell what they were anymore,
Mhm.
because of the tagging on them, or,
like the story walk by the library consistently gets tagged, so it's, it's like a bummer to use those lists, doesn't get to read the stories anymore.
They're frozen in the morning, so it's really hard to see them.
Okay.
If you deep dive into the culture of, we call it bombing, graffiti tagging, it's a huge no-no to do it in places like this.
Yeah,
It's, the culture has a place and a time where, what happens up here would be frowned upon by like the traditional,
I'm not talking about
really
that.
good graffiti guys.
I'm talking
like-
about like vandalism is a part of our culture, I'm not talking about
Oh.
graffiti culture.
Okay.
No, I fully respect graffiti culture. I'm talking about vandalism it is not uniquely American, but it is prevalent throughout America. I was just bringing it up because I know we've put a lot of funds and energy and time into it. I wanted to ask the question in case we haven't decided where the line is, about how much we fight this. Just
But
bring
like
it
some
up.
of the things, right, with, so like, I don't know if you've been into the Ice Palace Park bathroom, right, but if we were gonna put all stainless steel,
Fixture.
Pictures,
thank you,
yeah.
in there, right, that would be, you know, that big upfront cost, but like, the next time a kid goes in there and takes a rock to the toilet, lock them out.
Mhm.
Well, the bathrooms, or,
Both,
Yeah.
Right, yes,
sorry, I
yes,
shouldn't say that, I guess,
Damned
but
if we don't, so
Right.
if we don't fix the toilets and we do porta potties, you got ripped apart for that.
I sure
If we
did.
don't clean up the graffiti, then we get, you know.
So I've had
what do you do?
street signs or road signs, county road signs that we put up, replaced,
Mhm.
and within a week they're unreadable and shot up so bad. One that gets me is when I see bullet holes in signs right outside the, schools,
Yeah,
cause it's like, really, you're shooting right next to a school?
yeah, it's messed up.
And basically towards a neighborhood,
Mhm.
so you don't know where that bullet went.
Mhm.
I can see it on the east side of town maybe, but they may be out there practicing shooting, but we have a gun range now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't have any revenues, this is a, commissioner department.
yeah,
Other expenses, basically, it's for equipment. I like to keep about $10,000 in there a year. Right now, we're mandated to start purchasing electric lawnmowers, weed blowers. This is all through the state.
okay,
So the state government handed down again.
that's a mandate,
Yes, from the governor's office.
but ours gas powered mowers probably work fine.
Yeah, we still have them,
Yeah,
but
but any new ones,
New
we
ones
have to buy electric.
electric. But other small, just other small equipment that they need. The $42,000 from last year was for, a side-by-side that they also have a plow on, so they can use it summer and winter.
Is that the same one we're grooming with, or is
No,
this, okay?
that was a different one.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the other one was just approved, so. Professional services, believe it or not, most of that is toilets. All the portalets or whatever at the parks, that don't already have toilets. Just cause we have to provide that service in part.
Cleaning the toilets.
And cleaning the
Like the vault
toilets.
toilets.
Yeah, vault toilets are.
It's a big vacuum cleaner.
Same contractor for all those toilets?
No, we actually use two different contractors. Actually, three different contractors now, because we have one for the vault toilets, because the other one didn't wanna do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the additional trash that's in there that they have to separate by hand, don't wanna deal with it anymore. Yeah, I told you, toilets are not fun. That's why when I get a picture of a toilet, it's like, yeah, no, thank you. What other services that we supply basically are utilities for all of the county buildings, come out of the maintenance budget. And supplies are just cleaning supplies in all the county buildings. And training for our staff, they have parks training and being able to inspect, all of the park facilities. Make sure they're safe for people to enjoy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Some of our projects that we're planning for 2025, depending on where we're at with the remodel in the courthouse is going to need a new roof. It's not in the budget, I didn't ask for it in the budget because I wasn't sure what was going to take place with the remodel.
Yeah.
The senior center does also need a roof, but we did repair it last year. So it should last for a few more years. The asset management plan is currently in the works. We're working on it to help figure out what we need in the future.
Great.
Asset management plan not only for buildings and grounds, facilities, but also all of our equipment in the
Yeah,
town.
yeah. So that has never existed before?
Pardon?
That has never existed before?
No.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a big project. Real big project. I won't be here next week, but you'll hear from
He
Liz.
plans this strategically.
Uh-huh.
Every time there's like a milestone for asset management, Mike's like, oh, I'm out, I'm like,
She only does that when she knows I'm leaving, so that we can argue about it. Obviously continuing the asset management plan and working on the efficiency found within that in the buildings. That's our future long-range plan.
Excellent.
One thing that I'd like everybody in the county to know is that maintenance takes care of 44 county-owned buildings. That's anywhere from the bathroom, all the way up to the courthouse, and 31 county parks. That's all those parks inside of town as well as outside.
Do they shovel the sidewalks and stuff too?
Yes, they do,
Around our buildings.
and around the Vertex building and around the library.
And yes, yeah,
County building.
county.
Yes.
They do that by hand or they have a little machine?
That's one of the things that we bought that side by side for, but they also use a couple of four-wheelers, snow blowers, and they have plows on their trucks. So they do all the parking lots for the buildings also.
It's good.
It's a good chunk.
I still don't understand how you do it with the amount of people you have, Michael. It
Very
really,
good employees.
the math doesn't math in my brain.
Yeah.
Have very good employees.
Yeah.
Here's the list of the staff right here, and it's not big for all of the
Yeah, no, it isn't.
things you do.
people say we're not trying to do things like fix heat or whatnot, it's a little frustrating, so.
Yes,
So the only department that's not on there yet is transit.
yes.
That's next.
Lake County Transit, so this launched last year. So it is a fare-free, wheelchair accessible van. We just received the county's coaches, the capital pieces that will have the bike racks on the front of it, so you can fold it down, put your bike on there. So the impetus of this, it started with Commissioner Marcella at the IMTPR. She received MMOF funding for this, which started a feasibility study to understand the transit needs in the community. The biggest needs came from bringing Lake Fork, Mountain View Village, Mountain Valley Estates, those communities into town where core transit, which is Eagle County's transit authority, comes up, and the Summit Stage comes up. So for commuters, it has been a huge help. It's called a deviated fixed route, so you can call into dispatch or go on the website and you can get like a 3/4 mile pickup if you're off of that,
Gotcha.
to go to your house, so it's been very helpful for folks with mobility issues.
Like an
So-
eagle's nest, perhaps.
Yeah, Eagle's Nest is not in it yet, but we're working on that, but like Brooklyn Heights,
So close.
The manor.
I
Some
know,
of the
it's
manor-
the Mountain View seemed really underserved in that whole plan, but, and with Eagle's Nest being down there, I was like, that's really weird.
But Eagles Nest gets both the Eco Bus and Summit Stage going there and pick people up.
Fair enough.
but right, like if you need to get to Safeway or something, I mean, there are those issues, so. It is. Okay, so it is paid for by an MMOF multimodal optional funding grant plus a city and county local match. The city and the county agreed to split that local match. You can see, we launched it in October, you can see the trend of it going up. This does not include the Ski Cooper numbers yet, but the Ski Cooper ridership on the weekends has been great, especially for people who work out there. So don't gotta get a ride with a buddy anymore, or any of that kind of stuff, there's a little more independence there.
Helps with parking.
Yes, okay, so here's the match, sorry, so, year one, we just did, we are in year two. So I've been working with Farron Piers, who, helped with the feasibility study, all of these things, working on a grant, application for out years to try and get more federal and state funding to continue this. There'll still be a local match, but you can see the MMOF grant, how much they fund compared to our local match. We have a contract for this with Downtowner. Downtowner operates these local or micro transits throughout the state and throughout the country. They have been great to work with. Their drivers are great. They hired up, I don't know how they did, but they hired up really fast. Our regional manager is over in Avon, cause Carbondale and Avon use Downtowner as well, and I think it expanded in Aspen too. So our regional manager's over there, and then we have a local guy here, Lake County manager. They're very responsive. Haven't had any complaints so far, which is exciting. So short term is identifying that sustainable funding to make sure that we can continue this service, cause it as you saw with the bar graph of that going up. I think we'll continue to enhance that ridership just by people having the visibility, the awareness of it. Adam Ducharme was instrumental in getting that service out to Ski Cooper. Adam and I are also working on a plan of, especially like this summer, like if we can get down to Twin Lakes. It's just at some point, that's part of the long-term goals, is like north to south end service in the county, which benefits residents and yes, our visitors. Questions about transit?
There are toilets down there. Just, I know. Can't forget what happens once we get there.
Yeah,
After the grant runs out, we're probably gonna be on the hook for that, unless you can find more grant funding.
correct.
Should probably be on that.
But the nice thing is, well, maybe not nice, I mean, I understand that there are a lot of federal changes, but historically, and even under his first term, like a lot of these transit cuts didn't happen. So what we've observed and what Fair and Pierce has observed is like if a community can get this and launch this and show that there is a local match, which might increase, then the federal and state governments are more than likely to continue funding it. Because we know that transit is a huge part for, just equity, people getting to work, people going to the store, all of that. And especially if you have limited mobility, which is why we did that 3/4 route off. And I was walking home one day and I know that the marketing was successful because I saw Cosmo riding it.
Oh,
And that made me extremely happy. Yes.
Tim, why was the first year so high? Was that because of acquiring the
Yes,
buses and stuff?
yep,
Okay.
acquiring the buses,
Okay.
the startup costs, all of that.
Okay.
Yep. There we go. Our new buses look exactly like that, except they have a bike rack on the front. It does show that we can work together with the city, and that we work together for the community to enhance, quality of life for folks who live here.
Awesome.
What does the chat say?
What does the chat say?
If you put high density housing everywhere, we need more parks. Plus the tree grove is a wildlife. Is Mel still there?
Yeah, sure.
Mel, please feel free to reach out to us individually and or Tim if you have other questions. I'm sorry, this work session is not like a open discussion with the public, but yeah, it seems like you've got a lot of questions and it sounds wonderful, so give us a call or email us and we're happy to chat with you to make sure your questions get answered.
Great. Thank you for coming. Alright,
Have a good
it's 4:51.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike, appreciate you on multiple levels, man.
Thank you.
It's 4:51 PM, January 24th, we're gonna close this work session with Lake County Board of Commissioners.
Well done, Andy, Chair.